Now, since we're on the topic of perfect fillets, let's go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole for a minute here and look at some really finicky aspects of fillets in any CAD program, not just SOLIDWORKS, and then how we can get around those. So here, if we go to the fillet tool and do a constant radius 1 millimeter fillet along this edge, then watch what happens. Take a look at the distance between rails on this fillet. See how it's one distance here, and then it kind of stays very similar, and then it does a weird strange transition into a much wider fillet on this side, even though we're 1 millimeter all the way across. Well, the radius of this doesn't actually change. In fact, the fact that the radius stays the same is the reason why it looks like that. So let's explain. We have this is what is called a rolling ball fillet. Rolling ball fillet basically means if you imagine taking a ball, a 1 millimeter radius ball, and then rolling it right along this edge of these two surfaces, then these two outside yellow lines, those are the points of contact where that ball would touch those surfaces. And since this angle is different from this angle, the points at which the ball would touch the surface changes. And so you end up with this kind of ugly result. Now there's another issue too here. Look right here. You can see this blatant discontinuity in this surface. And that discontinuity is actually pretty nasty. That's something that is, may potentially cause us problems in the future, especially if we want to fix this condition with this rolling ball fillet. So let me show you what I mean. If I go to my face fillet instead of my edge fillet, and I choose one face and then right click to jump to that next box and choose the other face, it'll let me create a face fillet. You can see we have this discontinuity here in our surface, and we drive on down here and turn on our constant width fillet. Now that should fix the problem. Basically, constant width is, instead of using a rolling ball method, it's going to vary the radius as necessary to keep the distance between the rails equal all the way around. The problem is it's going to fail. It's not working at all. And if I clicked OK, it would just give me an error message. And the reason it won't work is because of this nasty discontinuity. Well, where is that coming from? Well, this discontinuity happens because of something that I've heard referred to as tangency degradation. And we can talk about this in a lot of different contexts. But basically, what we have is we've created a tangent continuous fillet on this end, a tangent continuous fillet on this end. But when you do a surface, a lofted surface between them, there's no guaranteeing that that tangency will be retained. So in this case, since we have a pretty extreme angle here, tangency is being lost on this surface. And that is one of the reasons to use G2 surfaces or G2 surface fillets as often as possible, because tangency degradation doesn't happen in those cases. So watch this. Let's drive back in time before our loft operation. It's one of the beautiful things about working in a parametric CAD system. And let's head up to our boundary surface. And I'm going to create a surface from here to here, and then set those to be curvature to face at both ends, so that we have a nice curvature continuous blend here now. And you can see it's not bulging quite as much as we might like. So I'm just going to set up the tangency weight for each of these, or the tangency tension, to 1.5. And that's giving us a surface that's pretty close to the original, but this surface is curvature continuous at each end, rather than being tangent continuous like that original fillet. So now I'll head up to the replace face command, select the inner face, that original fillet face, right-click to jump to the next box, and then select that outer face, click OK, and now we have a fully curvature continuous fillet in place of that original tangent continuous one. And so now we can go forward in time, and since we haven't changed any of those input faces for our loft rebuilds. And now we can run our fillet. Let's run our face fillet again with this surface and that one, and go down below and do our constant width fillet, and this time it works. Strange. Well, the reason it works, again, is because tangency degradation doesn't happen the same way if we have a curvature continuous blend. So now we can click OK on that. We have a nice clean fillet on that top edge, so we don't accidentally cut our fingers on that sharp corner. And we could do the same exact thing down here. Let's do a face fillet between this face and this face. It's going to go all the way around. Once again, we get this kind of funniness going on. And if we notice we do a constant width, it's probably going to fail because of that discontinuity there. And so what we would do is the exact same thing. We go back in time before the loft, do another boundary surface on this one. Set those to be curvature to face on both ends. And pump up the tension. Do our replace face between this face and that one. Go forward in time, add our fillet, do a face fillet between this guy and this guy. Go down and we'll make those constant width, and this time it solves it. Beautiful stuff. We can hide that original surface. And our fretboard is basically finished. The only thing that we have left is to add the frets themselves. But before we do that, one last thing. We've got all these surface bodies that we used along the way, or that are just hidden, really. And if we were to save this out as an IGES or a step file, these surface files would be in that exported file, which kind of bugs me. I don't really want for these surfaces to exist anymore. I want them to go away completely. So what we do is we go up to Direct Editing, and we choose Delete Solid/Surface. This is kind of a weird tool, but it's really useful. If I come in here to my surface bodies, I could just select all of these surface bodies and click OK. And now the model hasn't changed. It looks identical. The only difference is I no longer have those bodies up here. In fact, my body delete has removed everything except for this single solid body. So if we were to export a step or an IGES, we'd end up with a nice, clean, solid all by itself. All right, so let's add those frets.